Welcome to Soltron. Today I figured we'd talk about Terran Thrash from Earthspark. Since I bought this guy 3 times, I feel like I'm in a good position to do a comparison. So this was the one I bought originally because he was on the store shelf and he was $15 and it seemed like he was well worth it. And I really enjoyed the figure, so I really wanted this Takara repaint, but he ended up being really expensive and he was hard to track down. So I ended up getting this Deluxe class Thrash in the meantime because I liked his colors. And then finally, I was able to get this guy on my last Amazon Japan order for about, I think after shipping, he ended up being about $25, so pretty good price. So here's the 3 of them together. These two are just direct repaints. There's no remolding at all, but the repaints are so drastically different that they could possibly be like 2 different characters. And then of course this guy has a lot of different articulation, different transformation. He's a completely different mold. He has no shared parts. But yeah, let's start with the one I got originally. So this guy, I think the silver is really well done. You can see there's like nice metal swirl in this guy. So even though this guy's a $15 toy, they really put some good attention into him. He does have a lot of ball joints, which is unfortunate. So he's got ball joint elbows, ball joint shoulder here, ball joint hips. So you could expect that if you play with this figure a lot, he is going to become loose. Especially they use kind of like a weird ridged or textured ball joint. So these ball joints could definitely start wearing down. But maybe they use the textured ball joints because they last longer than other ones. I don't know. But kind of a weird choice. You can see like there's some texture in there. And then even the green plastic has a nice metal flake in it. So he's definitely very nice looking. And then his face has very nice metallic paint. His eyes look a little bit dead just because they're giant and blue. But he looks pretty good overall, and his center crest is very well painted. Just the paint on this guy is very well done. Like these thigh pipes are well done. The color separation is very nice, where you get his shin is a different color than his knee, which is accurate to the animation model. The only issue with this guy is that his hands are unpainted. They should be a different color. That's the only main issue. And then his weapon is actually very awesome. So you get this giant sidecar, and his sidecar can actually transform. So it's very simple. You just fold down the gun barrels, fold up the tire, and then there's his sidecar, which is pretty convincing sidecar. Nothing's gonna really fit in there. You can't fit a G.I. Joe figure in there, that's for sure, but it works as a sidecar. So pretty cool figure overall. Yeah, and I really like this kind of engine block looking stomach area. Yeah, he just works very nicely, and the ball joints all give him pretty good articulation. His head is only on a mushroom peg though, so you only get a swivel on his head, and it's very tight. And he has waist articulation, so he's pretty well articulated. His knee goes this far, almost 90 degrees. You're going to want to keep that in mind. And then nothing at the feet, and then just this transformation joint. And this is kind of annoying because it doesn't peg in and there's no pin, so you could actually pull these off by accident pretty easily. So the building materials on this guy are a little bit subpar, but he is pinned in some places, but other things are just pegged in with friction. And his hollowness, you can see in the back, that's a big problem. Hollow all around here, a lot of waffling, and the inside of his legs are also full of waffles as well. And then if we pull in his new mold for comparison, you can see he's also got the sidecar accessory, but this one is non-transformable. So it only becomes a shield, which I think probably suits the character a little bit better than having a giant devastating cannon. But this doesn't transform, so that's definitely a huge knock against him, because this could have easily just rotated and the wheel could have come to the side. Could have made an easy transformation for this. And he does come with this little pistol, which probably fits the character a little bit better. as he looks more like a scout than anything. And then the paint on this guy is also very excellent. So you get this nice teal or sky blue metallic on his biceps, on his face, on his thighs, and it matches pretty well with his metallic blue plastic. So it's not too far off. You can see it especially here and here. And then he doesn't have any color on his shins, so there's no color separation there, which is a knock against this guy because he kind of needs a little bit more color. But overall, his separation is pretty good. His knee articulation is much worse. You definitely are only getting, what is that? Like, instead of 90 degrees, you're getting maybe like 45. So you're not really getting close to 90. But he doesn't have very many ball joints, but he does have these ones here, which are very ugly. And they're visible on the side of his bicep. But that does give him his bicep swivel. He does have his 90 degrees at the elbow. He does have wrist articulation because he does have fists. He does have ball joint shoulders, so they cheat a little bit there. And then he's got ball joint hips too. Well, I guess it's not a cheat, but... and these ones are the smooth ball joints, so these aren't going to degrade as much, I don't think. And then he's also got a foot swivel, and he's got the pivot as well. So he's got much improved articulation. You can get really wide stance out of this guy with no problem, and he's got his waist articulation and ball joint neck. It's pretty loose, but that ends up not being too much of an issue. So you can get some really aggressive posing out of this guy, whereas, and he's going to be mostly stable. Some of his joints are a little bit loose, whereas these guys, you're just not going to be able to get extreme poses out of them, especially because they don't have that foot articulation, but you can kind of pull it off a little bit if you can just balance him just right. So some big differences there. And then of course this knee articulation is closer to 90 degrees. And then of course I love this guy's colors. His metallic blue is even different than this guy's metallic blue. He's more of like a metallic green, or maybe this is actually turquoise and this guy is like a sky blue metallic. And then the white they use for this guy, I don't know how I feel about it. It's kind of cheap looking. It looks like kind of like the glow in the dark white plastic, and it looks like it would be a little bit see-through in places. It's a little bit translucent, but overall it's pretty cool looking. It's a very sharp white. I don't know how long this white will last. If you have it under a UV light or something, it might start yellowing pretty badly, but it is shockingly white even compared to this guy. This guy looks off-white, and this is just pure nylon white. So pretty drastic difference as far as that goes. But yeah, his head sculpt, not as good. This one I think has the best head sculpt because the eyes are a separate piece. So the eyes look a little bit more alive. But then he's got a lot of speckling in his face paint, which is kind of distracting. But I think this guy has the best head sculpt, even though they're very similar. And I actually do like, this guy has more like bronze for his accent pieces, whereas this guy's more of like a copper, which I think he needs that red to set him off a little bit. And then of course he's got these nicely painted wheels, whereas this guy's is just black. So the paint work on this guy's much better. You can see there's paint separation on the feet. And then the shoulders, both of them have painted shoulders, which is very nice, whereas this guy has completely unpainted shoulders. And then his spark, or his chest crest, is nicely painted. Even the little bits on the side are painted, whereas they didn't bother with this one. So this one's got more of a premium paint style, even though there's just, even compared to this guy, there's just a little bit of extra paint here and there, which really helps set him off. So really, for me, The comparison is just between which one of these two do I like better. So you can see them side by side. You can see the color separation. The fists is really an ugly point on this Takara version, whereas the shins on the Takara version and the feet look much better than this version. And then another thing to consider is just for proportions, how do they look? Like, this is a very skinny, creepy looking figure, and that's part of his design. And this kind of pulls it off, but I think this just pulls it off so much better. He's just, his legs especially, just look so skinny and just barely there that I think it ends up lending to his look. And his long biceps, I think, also look pretty great. But then I think one place where this figure kind of is not as great is his forearms are just a little bit too long. So I think that ends up hurting him in the long run, whereas this guy's proportions look a little bit more sturdy. So it kind of depends on what you want. Do you want a figure that's like stretched out and creepy looking? Or do you want a figure that has a little bit more natural looking proportions? Okay, so I've ranted about that long enough. Let's go into the transformation. I think that's a place where the warrior class wins because it's so simple. You just basically move everything that needs to be moved, basically. You flip up this little piece. And then you're going to move all this down, and that's going to peg into this. And that's basically the top half of the bike. Alternatively, I guess it's more fun to transform the legs first, because you can get like this interesting in-between mode. So you can rotate the legs, and then you want to have the waffling side face towards you. Okay, I did that. Wait, okay, I did that wrong. So this way, actually. And then the feet are going to end up at the bottom like this. So you need to break his legs so they're facing the wrong way. And then you use this. This is not a kickstand. This is actually just to hold the two pieces together. And this design oversight, this could have been used as a kickstand, but they just didn't design it long enough for it to work that way. So that's too bad. Then you get this cool intermediate rat trap mode, which is very cool. So I am a fan of that. And then you just flip all his upper body like we did earlier. You're just going to lay him down. And then this actually pegs into his knee pads or his knee spikes, which is very nice. And then he's going to grab the side of his seat with his fist. And that's going to unpeg his handlebars. And you can see a real problem with this recolor right here is that everything just looks white. He looks like a larva. It just it's very ugly. There's no detail work at all, no separation. He needed some paint on his bike mode, but they cheaped out there. And then you're going to take his sidecar. Let's just take those 2 seconds to transform that, and then peg that into the side here. And there you get his bike mode. Pretty cool. It definitely does not stand on its own. The wheels look too far apart and too small. They're not very well proportioned for this alt mode. So that's a weakness of this guy, but he does have a functional sidecar, which is cool. And then I guess technically he could kind of ride himself. These figures, when you get a deluxe bike mode, they're better for like 3 3/4 figures, but you can kind of convincingly get 2 of these guys to ride themselves like Junkion style. Kind of works. And then this guy's transformation is similar in some ways, but mostly different. So we're just going to ignore the upper body for now and do the same thing. We're going to get his legs ready. We're going to break his knees backwards. And then this is the part that really bugs me about this figure, especially since I haven't transformed him for a couple weeks. You're going to point his toes, and then his toes kind of like do this kind of thing where they asymmetrically stack onto each other, and then you have to flip out his actual toes to get these things out of the way. So just like a very involved, kind of annoying transformation for his legs. And then there is a kickstand. So let me figure this guy out. Okay, there we go. We figured him out. So his toes have to be facing the same direction. And then, yeah, you get same little rat trap mode. So that's cool. And then this kickstand sucks. It's just slotted in place. I don't know why they didn't pin that or something. But this kickstand mostly works. And then for his upper body, it's pretty much the same as the warrior class. This pegs into his knee spikes. You're going to lean him forward. You're going to open up his chest above his head. You're going to take his windscreen, put that forward, and then you're going to get these shoulders down. And then you're going to use that little broken joint right there to just double joint his biceps. And then you do the same on the other side. And then he's basically going to peg in together like that. Okay, and then actually his feet were supposed to be facing backwards, not forwards. And then these are supposed to theoretically peg into his forearms. I think they peg into, oh, actually, I think they peg into his wrists, actually. Yeah, there it goes. There you go. So kind of a fiddly transformation. So that is, I think, a big point against this figure is his legs are just so involved. They're a lot like the Legacy animated Prowl. You have to get everything just like in the right place, which is kind of annoying. But I think for bike modes, when you compare the two, this guy is more sleek. You could put a figure on top of him more easily, but this guy's arms get in the way. And then it's very nice, his little crest that's on his windshield. That looks pretty awesome. And then there is some color separation in the handlebars. So I think that helps. And then his wheels are not so far apart. So his bike mode actually looks a lot better because this guy's wheels are just so massively too far apart. Whereas this guy's wheels are basically in the right place. Things peg in together too, like this chest pegs into the top of the shoulders, so that's nice. So which one of these guys is the best? Well, probably this one. He has the less hollow spaces. His transformation's a little involved, whereas this guy's got a lot of waffling. So probably the Deluxe class actually wins for the most part. He's easier to get. He's cheaper. Yeah, it's just more consistent figure. But if you want something that's simpler, I would definitely recommend the Takara version if you have a little bit of money to throw around, or even just the General Warrior version. I think is a perfectly good figure in its own right, especially if you like simple things like I do. This guy's a little